Hi, this is Scott with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit for 2025 Ford F-150. So we get asked a lot what you're going to need to get all set up for flat towing, and you're going to need a base plate, you're going to need a tow bar, you'll need safety cables, you'll need tow bar wiring, and some form of a braking system. Other than that, one of the things we do usually recommend is a charge line kit. What that's going to do for you is make sure your vehicle battery has charged once you get to your destination. That's going to allow your RV to trickle charge your battery through the system while you're cruising down the road with flat towing your vehicle. What your diode wiring is going to do for you is it's going to give you your lighting from your RV to your vehicle. It's going to mimic your lighting needs for that. It's going to give you your turn signals like we have on here. We have our left turn signals. It's going to give you your right turn, your tail lights, and your braking from your RV to your vehicle. Your diode wiring is going to plug into your front of your vehicle here via a plug. Now there's going to be a lot of different variations that you can get for your diode wiring kits. You can get the bare bones kit. Now say you already have your cord or you already have tow bar that has wiring built into it. You can get just the bare bones diodes and set your vehicle up with that. Or you can get them in kit form where they have your various types of tubes and wires that you're going to need to get hooked up from your vehicle to your RV. So this is the way to go for your wiring needs if you plan on flat towing. It's not going to give you any feedback through your wiring of your vehicle or anything like that. It's really designed to keep your vehicle safe, and basically it's kind of like a standalone wiring system for your vehicle. Now if you have any questions or comments about this setup for your F-150, you can get a hold of one of our experts here at eTrailer, or if you have any comments, you can always leave a comment down below with any pictures of how you're using it if you already have it installed on your vehicle. Now as far as installation goes, it is pretty involved and it is a lot of wiring, so if it's something you don't have time to do yourself, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and get something done for you locally. If it's something you feel like tackling yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. To start our installation for our diodes and wiring, we do have the front end of our truck all apart because we did put our base plates on, and we have a few other components that we are going to be installing. So now, as you can see, I have my wires that are going to come down to my plug out here to the front of our vehicle, and I route it up beside the radiator and up into my vehicle here. So now with this, I did peel back a large length of my white wire that comes off of my 4 wires here, and I have a factory ground. Our white wire is going to be our ground for our plug, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this wire off, and then I'm going to ground it right here to this factory ground with a ring terminal. So I just cut off my wire, and now I'm going to get that stripped back. And with that stripped back, just want to twist that up. And get that crimped on to my ring terminal. Get a good crimp on that so we get a good ground. I'll set that aside for now. We have an 8mm bolt. I want to do that. Take my ring terminal, slide that underneath of our factory strap. Tighten that back down, and that'll give us a good solid ground. After I ran my wires up under the hood, I dropped them down back by the firewall, and we came just kind of on top of the frame over here. We wanted to stay away from exhaust and anything hot, so then we came on top of the frame, came back, and then we got over to about over here, part way down our running boards, and then we met up with some factory wiring harness and started our way back down towards the rear of the vehicle. Now you can see where we tied off to the harness, and we came up above and up by the body mount and went around the inside of that and then followed it on back. Now you just want to tie off here and there at different locations, and we get over past our gas tank. It's still running on top of the frame. And as we got up on top of the frame here, we went on the inside of our frame where our body mount mounts up here by the bed of our vehicle. That's going to hold our wire and keep it from falling down. And we went over, and then we jumped across towards the back of our vehicle. Now once we got to the rear of our frame, towards the rear of the bed of our truck, we have some wire harnesses here, and this is where we kind of split off a little bit. We have our brown wire and our yellow wire that we're leaving on our driver's side, and then we split off our yellow wire, and we're going to start bringing this across the back of our frame, and we're going to end up adding a little bit of an extension because I came up a little short on this one. So what I'm going to do is we're going to run a jumper brown wire off our brown wire that leads from our driver's side over. So as soon as we make that jump, I'm going to run it along with our green wire, bundle those together, and I'll bring those both up into the pocket where our tail light jumps up in to the back of our vehicle. To get our diode wiring set up, we're going to need to get our tail lights out on both sides. So I'm going to use an 8mm socket and just get those broke loose. Pull back on our tail light. Now we can unhook our tail light. Just pull back on the red switch, push in on the clip behind that, undo that, and now we can get that out of the way. Now we went through and tested all of our wires, and we found out that our white wire with a green stripe is going to be our turn signal and brake, because this is a combined system. So we're getting our turn and brake on the same line. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and cut that back. And this is where we're going to be installing our diode. With that cut back, we can strip off our wire. And these are kind of small wires, so we like to go a little bit, strip a little more back, that way we can double them over. I'll get this other side stripped off. Always twist those together after you do that. Now we're going to have our diode, and this one is going to have just the all blues, but the other one we're going to be using on this side is going to have a tannish colored one, and we'll show you what we're doing with that one in just a second. So we have our inside. We're going to have two lines that are going to come in. We're going to have to take one of our ends, and we'll get that crimped in place. Give that a little pull, make sure we have a good solid connection, which we do. Now we're going to take another end, crimp it on to our other wire that's leading out of to our plug. Now we'll take our yellow wire that we brought up from underneath. That is going to be our turn and stop wire. Cut some of the excess off of that. Now we'll strip that back. Now we'll take the other end off of our diode, and we'll get that crimped on. Now the side that has the two ends, we're going to take our yellow wire and plug in one end. Then we're going to take our other end that comes out of our vehicle's harness. We'll plug that in. Now we'll take the end to our out, and we'll plug that into the end that runs out to our plug. Now for our yellow wire with the green stripe, we tested that, and that ended up being our tail light wire. So we'll just cut that about the same location, strip both of those off. This wire seems to be a little bit smaller, so we'll strip that back just a little bit more. Then we can double that over. Now we'll just double those over. That's going to give us a little bit more bite in the end of our connector. Now we'll take our other diode and we'll take off all of our ends. We'll get one end onto our wire running down to our plug. Now for our wire we have here, what we're going to do is we're going to have our brown wire that runs up from underneath. Just cut off the excess. Now we'll strip it back. We'll take our two wires, the one that comes from our harness and the one that comes from underneath, twist those together. Now we'll have a jumper wire as well that's going to go across. We'll twist all three of those into one. Now that I have these stripped off, I have my brown jumper wire that's going across to our other side, and I have our wire that's coming up from underneath that comes from the front. I want to twist those together, and we're going to take the yellowish colored connector, we're going to put that over our two brown wires. Now we'll crimp those in place. Make sure we get a good crimp on those. Now for our other wire that comes out of our factory harness, what we're going to do is we're going to take the other blue end from our connector, and we're going to go ahead and get that crimped in place. With everything crimped on, we're going to have our outside. We're going to run that towards our plug. Now we'll take the other side that comes from our factory harness, plug that into the inside. Now we'll take our other brown and run that on the other side of that. Now we can start on our other side. Now on our passenger side, we have our purple wire with our white stripe, and it is a smaller, thinner wire. That's for our taillight, and our brown wire that we ran across from underneath from our other side will be our in for our taillights on the inside. And then we have the same wire that runs out here that comes in as the in from our factory side. Now for our turn and brake side, we have our gray wire with a purple stripe. That goes into the inside, and then we have that one coming out here that runs out to our plug. Now our green wire, which will act as our turn and stop light, comes into this side as well. Now with those all hooked together, now we can either stick these together or stick them to the inside and tape them all up and then reinstall our taillights. Now what you're about to see is how we get this all hooked up. Everything is correct except for the part where we go with our brown wires that come from underneath and then jumper over. On that diode, we want to use the green wire with the orange stripe, and that will be the green wire and orange stripe coming out of our harness and going down to our plug as well. And on our passenger side, for the taillight side, on the diode with the brown wire coming into that, we're going to use the brown wire with the yellow stripe, and the same coming out down to our plug. Now in the front of our vehicle, we're going to get our plug all set up. We're going to have our white wire, which is going to be our ground. So we're just going to go to the GD on, it's marked on the back of our plug. It's hard to see with the screw in the way, but it does have GD there, and that's where we're going to go with that. Now I do have a little bit of wire showing, so I am going to trim off the end just a little bit, just to give it a little bit better protection once we get it screwed in place. Now we'll get that put back into our slot, and now we can tighten it down. Keep that good and snug. Now we'll just follow our markings on around and we'll get the rest of them installed. Now, one thing you want to remember when you're doing this, before you start your wiring, make sure you put your boot on over first, because I've actually done this where I got everything wired up and then I realized sitting right next to me was the boot. So make sure you put that over your wires before you start doing this. But now we have everything put on and how it's going to look when you get this all wired up. Best thing to do is just go by the little marks around the plug and just follow through those, and your instructions will help you out. Just make sure you get everything tightened down and give it a good check before you get it mounted up to your truck. It's also a good idea to go ahead and test it with a tester before we get it pulled in place. Now we can test our lights. We have our test box hooked up. Now we'll turn on our tail lights. We'll do our left turn. We'll do brake lights. Now we'll do right turn. Now we'll do off, and all of our lights are working. Now we can come back through after we have everything all set up. We can get it ready to install onto our prongs for our base plate. Now with that, we're gonna go ahead and come through with some silicone and just seal this all up, and then I'll slide the boot down over that, get that taped on, and then I'll backfill that with silicone, and that's gonna protect our connections inside of our plug. Now we can get our plug put in place. We're just going to use our self-tapping screws that came in our kit. Now I like to take washers and put a washer on the outside and then one that's going to go on the inside. It's just going to make our plug a little bit stronger. We'll go ahead and get that started on both of those. With that all installed, that'll do it for our installation and our look at our Roadmaster Diode Kit for 2025 Ford F-150. I'm Scott with eTrailer, and thanks for watching.